Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm so pleased to be joined by my very good friend, Erin Hodgkinson. And I know you guys are going to enjoy this interview because I've looked forward to this for so long. And many of you will recognize Erin as our NMSN stylist. I mean, you see her features in our magazine. She's always, sharing with us the must-haves for the season. And so I'm excited to catch up with Erin because you are now with Stitch Fix. And the last time we chatted, you were with the Home Shopping Network. And I mean, we have so much to catch up on, but you know what? Not everybody knows you, Erin. So before we get started, first, welcome. It's
Thank you.
you.
I'm so excited to be here and I've missed you too.
I know I have so missed you. And I mean, I want to think that everybody knows you because, your work is so great, but there might be some people out there who have not read your highlight, who may not know about your military spouse journey. So I wonder if you could share that with them. Just give them an overview and then we'll just get right into the questions.
Okay. So we were in the military for 23 years and we have 4 children. And as far as my career was concerned, I spent a lot of their elementary years raising them at home until I got to the point where I really wanted to do something that was my own. And so that's when I opened the women's boutique that was easy to travel, and could go with us wherever we went. And then eventually I closed shop there and moved right into more of a civilian job because I was ready. I was ready for that.
And then what did you do? How did you actually let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us a little bit more about the businesses you ran while you were overseas? Because I think that's the thing you missed. And that was
Oh,
what was
yeah.
remarkable to me was, holy cow, you were running a business while you were in Okinawa. Like,
Yes.
tell us about that. And then tell us how, like you just glossed over the fact that, you closed the business because you wanted to move on. But how
Yeah.
did you know when it was time to shutter the business and move on?
Okay. So my traveling women's boutique started off as very much something I wanted to contribute to the family and do my thing and really get my mind going again because I felt like, I was raising kids at home and I wanted to be more educated and all those things. I wanted to learn the boutique business. And so when I started that, we were overseas for almost a decade.
Wow.
So I knew that going to Okinawa, I started it right before we went to Okinawa. Went to Okinawa, I was able to get into the gift shops and the events and set up pop-up shops, which was so great. And then it eventually became more about like community and connection, right? We were like having coffee and having people over, and then they were shopping for seasonal pieces. And that was so much fun. And then as we began to move after that, it got a little bit harder to recreate, right, my customer um, pot, so to speak. So, and physically, we were moving pieces everywhere, and that got to be really difficult. So, when 2020 happened and COVID, I decided I was going to close up the physical parts of the pop-up shop and then move to a more online styling business and offering styling courses and, teaching people how they can really love their wardrobe every day. And I decided I was going to close up that also because I wanted to get back to being with people and learning to interview again. I don't think I had done an interview for, I don't know, 15 years probably. And I was like, I really want the scope of like even the questions people asked had changed so
Right.
much. And I was like, I just want to learn again what it's like to be in a person on, a one-on-one interview and get good at it and just see where that goes from there.
And then when you guys moved to the UK, you actually went back to school.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when COVID happened again, I had just signed up for a styling course in London. And I was so excited because I was going to study fashion in London. That's a dream. And then COVID happened and I ended up having to do 99% of it online, which was fine because I still got all the technical training I needed for fashion styling. So that worked out. I
And
mean,
that's kind of cool because I have to think that, it sounds like you kind of just fell into things, but you didn't. You were very deliberate because I remember because I was devastated you moved from, Northern Virginia and went over there. And so I was, we were already friends through that and, we were talking through that. And I just remember you being very deliberate about like, hey, this isn't working for me now, but I want to do this. This is my new passion. And I have to think that all that kind of made you ready for something like the Home Shopping Network. So, when that opportunity came up, how did you decide to go after it? Like, were you concerned that you might have to PCS? And did you have that kind of imposter syndrome going on in your head? And I mean, how did you overcome that kind of concern or anything else that comes with the military lifestyle and then just decide to just go for it?
I just went for it because I didn't so much think about the PCSing piece because I was like, I want to do this, prove to myself that I can do this since I haven't been in the workforce for so long. And going through the interviewing process and proving to myself, like, I did not expect to land anything. Just gonna go see if I could, if my resume and my qualifications could even get me the interview. I was happy with that. And then once I was in the interview and I was talking to my husband about it, I was like, you know what? I actually think if I get this, I think I'm going to take it. I'm not worried about PCSing because the accomplishments that even had brought me like that I had accomplished landing the interview was so exciting that I didn't mind. I was going to figure out the PCS season or the PCSing portion later.
And I do remember that you did end up PCSing. You stayed in the same state, but you ended up going a couple hours away, and then you still maintained the job. And so I didn't even, I mean, I guess we never talked about that you had never just, you didn't even think about PCS. You're like, I'll figure that out. I'll get the job first, and then I'll figure it out if we have to PCS.
Yeah.
So what was that mindset like where you're like, okay, well, we have to PCS and it's going to be a couple hours away from my job. Did you have to talk them into letting you do it remote or?
I didn't so much have to talk them into it, but I was like, this is an option for me. So whatever you can give me, or there were a couple things that I knew I could do remotely. And so I just had that conversation with my bosses. Like, I can create a closet virtually. There are many things that I can do online. So what do you guys think about that? And they were so flexible and so sweet. And they knew that I didn't know when I applied for the job. I didn't at the time know we would be PCSing. For all I knew, we could have been there 2 or 3 years.
I mean,
So
because you were overseas for 10, so there's no way that anybody can know that. Yeah.
yeah, so I could have been there for 2 or 3 years. And so that's another reason that nothing stopped me because I was like, well, we could be here in
But the
reality.
big thing, I guess the big takeaway for everybody is that you had to be proactive. Like you had to come up with the solutions for your bosses and say, hey, I know I have to move, but I can still deliver this for you in a virtual environment.
Yes, yes, totally. You have to jump in there, get in there if you want to, if I think we moved in July and I was online looking at jobs, figuring out getting my resume updated. That was huge. And having somebody help me with that. And then landing those interviews. That's
That's so
got
cool. So then I
yeah.
feel like we're just catching up in real time because then, I mean, like when you filled out the highlight after much pressure from us, I'm like, wait, she's at Stitch Fix now. How did that happen? How did you go from the Home Shopping Network to Stitch Fix?
So funny enough, like you said, you have to jump in there. I jumped in with both feet and actually said I was applying for multiple jobs and just to see what I can land, and I landed both of those jobs at the same time. So I was like, if I PCS, I can do Stitch Fix online and keep it if I move. Planning way ahead. If I don't PCS, I can still do it from home on my own time because they are super great and flexible schedules and work on call at HSN. So I actually was working both at the same time. And then when we moved, I just stayed with Stitch Fix, obviously.
No, that's so cool. And as an aside, Erin has shared her social. So if you're not on her highlights on our website, you need to go look because she has the funniest reels where she's doing competitions, stitch, like outfit competitions with her colleagues on Instagram. So you have to go look. Um, but no, that's awesome. And then so you were able to make it work, but it just sounds like the big takeaway from that one is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like just you have to think ahead. So I think I just want people to understand that you didn't fall into these opportunities. You were hustling and you were looking and you always had your eye on what next, like what can I do next? Um, and so I guess in the military life though, the what's next was that your husband was getting toward the end of his career. And so just as things were getting settled and you were getting your feet wet and you were just getting used to the op tempo, all of a sudden he announces that he's retiring.
Hmm.
And I think you were saying that it's been since January. So like I just want to know, you're fresh in it, within the scope of your professional life, what has been your biggest surprise with the transition out of the active duty military life? There's got to have been some.
I mean, I think I've learned so much in the military life, like transitioning and being flexible and resilient and moving from place to place. Like, I think it gave me the confidence and allowed me to do all those things, to dive in, plan ahead, be flexible. Not everything works out exactly the way you want it to. And so I feel like it was just second nature, right? Like, this is what we do. This is how we do these things. And you're going to get you may, my husband started off in one career field and totally did a 360 to do something else. And I think also the military prepared him for that, right? Got to be flexible, got to be willing to do other things. And it's actually been really great. It's been a great transition thanks to all our military experience.
Although you have to admit that the biggest question that you guys are stymied by is where do you want to live?
Yeah, yes, which I didn't realize was a very popular answer, apparently. But yeah, with remote work, it is very hard because now you can go anywhere. You can
Right.
pick your place, and we've been told where to go for the last 23 years. So talk about a big decision and pressure, but we'll figure it out.
No, we were laughing about that because it's like, no matter how prepared you are, like you can have your finances in order, you can have the kids all in order, like you wait until they're graduate or whatever. The question that always gets everybody is where do you want to live? And then all of a sudden, deer in the headlight looks, nobody knows. They're like, what?
Yeah.
I get to choose? It's funny.
That's hilarious. I think it's such a huge decision that you feel like I don't want to make the wrong one, but you're not going to
Right.
make the wrong one,
You can
right?
always move. You can always move.
You're never stuck. I always say that. You're never stuck. You can always move.
No, I love that the transition is going well for you guys. I'm a little jealous. Ours was a little bit rougher because we went from Florida residents to Virginia residents having to pay a lot more taxes. And so that was a little more jarring. But we chat about that too, where if you're going to go and move into a location that doesn't tax your military retirement, that makes it
Yes.
a little bit easier. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would be totally remiss having you here if I didn't ask on behalf of everybody else who might be wanting to follow in your footsteps. How do you get into fashion? I know that sounds like a crazy question, but how do you even start to get into
Yeah.
the world of fashion?
It's not a crazy question because I feel like it can be a little bit harder to break into fashion in general because, there's a lot of people and not as many jobs, and a lot of people think you have to live in New York or you have to live in LA, which isn't true at all necessarily because of remote work. Again, it's amazing. But I definitely, when I was 18, was the girl who was like bleaching her pants, I don't know if anybody remembers that trend, but we would like throw them in the washing machine and pour bleach in them and then let them sit and then they would
I'm
come
sure
out.
your mom loved that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. I should ask her now. Yeah. I don't think she loved that. But so I knew I kind of always had the into it, like, oh yeah, this is my thing. I love it. I love fashion. I love beauty. Um, but then as I got older, I was like, when we got to England, I was like, this is my opportunity to go again, study in London. And I'm here and I'm like an hour and a half away. And why don't I just go for it for technical training? Because I didn't have technical training. I had all the natural, I don't know what you would call them,
You
just
had the
natural.
style sense. You had the sense and the style.
Yeah, sense. Like, and that's if you feel like you have that, just go for it because that actually can't be taught. And if you don't have that, but you do love fashion, then you go get the technical training, right? And people love that.
So
So
basically it's just go for it. Don't get in your own way.
yes, don't just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
Right.
Yeah.
I love it. And I know that we're going to continue catching up, but I think at this point, we're going to let you guys go. And I hope that you will go catch Erin's reels on her Instagram and go read her highlight because her story is really inspirational in that she's just somebody who didn't worry about the military lifestyle, letting that stand in your way about, like whether or not you went for a job or not. You apply for the jobs and if they accepted you, then you're like, then I'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
that's not something I ever did because I was always just that person who always held myself back. And I wish I had more of that when I was coming up. But thank you
I
so much,
definitely
Erin.
will. We don't give ourselves enough credit
We
for
don't give
sure.
ourselves enough credit.
Like go for the job that's above the one you want.
Great advice. And those are great last words. And so I think at this point, I'm just going to say thank you to our friends at USA for making these conversations possible. And thank you, Erin. It's been great catching up. And we'll see you guys here again next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.